How about another joke, Murray?
No, I think we've had enough of your jokes.
What do you get?
I don't think so.
When you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash.
Call the police,
I'll
Gene.
tell you what you get.
Call the police.
You get what you fucking deserve.
Three Films and a Podcast has no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode. All film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders and is used solely with the intent of film criticism, commentary, and education under fair use law. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy.
Welcome to Three Films and a Little Podcast. As we've mentioned before, our little podcasts are a smaller version of our normal podcast where we basically recap earlier rounds that we viewed earlier this year. And we have also used the little podcast to do fun events like with the community, like a Halloween movie, holiday movies. Today we are recapping round 2 of our movie club that we viewed in the January-February timeframe of 2020.
The pre-COVID times, back when things were normal.
Things are simpler.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Little did we know.
Yeah, little did we know.
I was trying to remember like when exactly this was, and yeah, it was right in the middle of January. I felt like it was last year, like 2019, but yeah, it was kind of. Time is weird these days.
Time is very weird. It's 5 years ago, the beginning of 2020.
Yeah, exactly. So this lineup included Joker, it included Marriage Story, and it included The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. I know around this time we were trying to fit in some movies where we could that were nominated for Oscars. Mm-hmm. And so
is that what this was? Is that like
it wasn't an official thing. It was just more of like as we chose these movies, we were mindful that some of these were going to be nominated or were nominated and we're going to, be in the running. So this round, and I believe the next round, we tried to throw in where we could some Oscar nominated movies. Mm-hmm. So these ones being obviously Joker and Marriage Story. The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, I think, was the previous year. So I guess to start us out off on Joker, get it out of the way a little bit. The Joker, just to give a quick recap, directed by Todd Phillips. It had Joaquin Phoenix nominated for Best Actor. I did not recap the nominations. Ben, you can correct me if you know. Was it nominated for Best Picture as well? And Best Director?
Pretty sure it was. It had like oddly high number of nominations, if I remember correctly. But you keep talking about it. I'll look it up.
Okay. So yeah, it was nominated for several things. It's basically a retelling of the classic villain Joker. In this iteration, he is a mentally ill man with a condition that makes him laugh uncontrollably, and I guess with the way he's treated is turned down the path of a homicidal maniac, and at the same time he kind of becomes the leader or the face of a anti-establishment movement. What I'm going to do is I'll hand it off to you guys to give your thoughts principally on the movie, and then also kind of just give from your perspective, because I mean it fits in like this new DC universe. They're trying to fit in like this universe here, and I was curious where they would go with it. It did super well, so I guess my question to you guys would be, what are your thoughts, and where do they go with this new Joker universe that they've created? And let's start with Ben.
Man, my thoughts. I don't even know where to start. This was quite the movie. I've seen it twice. I went and I saw it in theaters because I feel like no matter what I'm going to expect of it, I'm just a sucker for a comic book movie, which this is like, the term is used very loosely with this. But yeah, I remember I came home after watching it, and in my Letterboxd review, I said, I don't know if this is a 4-star movie or a 2-star movie. And I ended up giving it 3. And then upon the rewatch, I gave it 2 stars because I had like settled down and like come to realize how I truly felt about the movie. It's a beautiful movie. It is beautifully shot. It looks great. The score is beautiful, which, I mean, speaking of, so it was nominated for 11 Oscars. It won 2. It won for Best Original Score from, let me see, make sure I get the name right. Hilder, I'm not giving him attempt to the last name because I know I'm going to butcher it, but it won Best Score. And the other thing that I thought was great about it was Joaquin Phoenix's performance. It was very strong, it was very powerful, and he won the Best Actor at the Oscars for this movie. Those were my 3 takeaways, which sounds just like a blueprint for a great movie. Like, oh, it sounded great. Oh, it looked great. Oh, the main actor was awesome. I just hated everything else about this movie. I didn't like the storyline. I didn't like how I felt it portrayed, mental health. I didn't like, I guess just what it was trying to get across. I don't know. It felt unnecessary. It felt like, I think we're all, a fan of the comic book genre overall. Matt, I know you're a huge fan of it. And for me, the Joker is like one of the characters where it's better when we don't know the origin story. Like the unknown is what makes it so great in my mind. So when I saw that the dude who directed Hangover 2 was going to have an origin story with Joker, I was like, okay, that's super weird. But then Joaquin was attached, and I literally couldn't think of a movie that I didn't like that he was in. And I just felt so conflicted. I felt like these are polar opposites. Mm-hmm. Why are they working together? This is insane to me that these people are like teaming up. I don't get it. So, and it just kind of turned out to be, I guess, what I thought it would be when it got announced. Like, it's a movie that looked cool with a really strong performance, but the storyline just wasn't important or good. I really didn't enjoy it. It felt like, you guys might hit on this, but I got the impression that Todd Phillips got finished watching like Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, and he's like, I want to do that. But Todd Phillips is not Martin Scorsese. I don't know if he knows that or not, because it's just like, we talked about Rules of Engagement being, by someone who like was trying to write like a mix of American Psycho and Pulp Fiction. And that's just kind of what it felt like with Todd Phillips. He's like, oh, I'll take a character that people know about, so get a box office draw, but I'm going to do my version of Taxi Driver. And I guess my overall review would be, if you like really want a story about like a character who just changes who they are and goes down like a deep, dark hole, and just a huge dramatic shift throughout the movie, watch Taxi Driver.
You talking to me?
That's the better version of this. You don't get a little baby Bruce Wayne in it, but that's it, I guess. Like, I don't know. That's pretty much all there is. So I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling on about it. I had a really hard time with this movie. I don't know that I would go back and watch it again. I might at some point, because again, just like there's great clips that I'm sure we'll be putting over this audio, and like you can see it looks fantastic. It is so well shot, but that's just not, it doesn't make a movie. So I don't know. My rambling thoughts, I'll wrap them up just to say that the 2 Oscars it won, I feel like made sense. Those people were fantastic in what they did. But I don't know. I'm surprised and not surprised that we're getting a sequel, because I guess money talks. People are going to come see number 2. I'll go see number 2. I can't help it. It's the car wreck. You drive by really slow, like, well, I got to check it out if I've been waiting this long, but I'm not going to like what I see. But it's just, that's what's going to happen. So I don't know. Those are my overall thoughts. I'm very curious to hear, Fuzz, what do you think about it?
Honestly, a lot the same. It's when I first saw it and reviewed it, and then watched it again. I don't think I reviewed it until the second time I watched it. But I had a hard time reconciling the fact, like a lot of what you said, where it's really well made. It looks great. Like, in regards to the craft of the movie, like, it's about as good as you can do, right? It's paced well. It's got it creates a world, and it creates a theme, and it sticks to it, and it stays true to the world that it creates, and it feels very realized and real, and it feels gritty and engaging, but at the same time, it's not really fun to watch. You know, I kept watching both times. It kept me engaged and it kept my eyes on the screen, but it was a bummer to watch. And so do I give it a poor review because it's not fun to watch, or do I give it a great review because it's so well made?
Yeah.
And I honestly still have a hard time reconciling that. My Letterboxd review, I'm looking back on it, and I reviewed it on January 16th of 2020. And I said, it's sort of like watching a beautiful train wreck. Like, you don't want to see what's happening, but you can't look away, because when are you ever going to see this again? Right. It's just like, the things I was watching were interesting despite how off-putting they were. And I just had to keep watching. And like, I don't even know if I liked what I was seeing, but at the very least I was fascinated. And at the worst I was horrified. Like, I felt bad for Arthur, but I don't excuse any of the stuff he did. I understand why he was so hurt by, being mocked his whole life, and finally his hero Murray mocking him. But like, I do think it's dangerous to pretend mentally unstable is potentially murderous. And I say all that, and then I remember like, yeah, but it's about the Joker, right? Like why am I surprised that a supervillain acts like a supervillain? And I think it's a lot to do with what you said about how we don't need to see his backstory, and I put that in my review as well. But then I think about the fact that in the actual like canon of Batman, we know Joker's origin story. He, like in the Tim Burton Batman, he falls into a vat of acid and his face gets all screwed up and he looks in the mirror and whatever. We've all seen that scene. And if you haven't, like, go revisit my favorite Batman out of all of them, despite not having seen it in a long time. It's still my favorite, probably just out of nostalgia. But anyways, we know the Joker's origin story. So why am I so mad about learning his origin story? And, it's just because it's a different origin, but like the DC universe, it seems that they're trying to create is much darker. It's grittier. It's a little more real and less cartoony like the Marvel universe. So I don't know. I have a lot of mixed emotions. In the end, I gave it a 3-star review. I'll probably keep it at 3 just because, like I said, it's really well made, but it's just kind of a fucking bummer. And it's like, I can understand wanting to delve into the psyche of a supervillain and make him seem more human than super, but maybe it's better if our villains are left as more of a mystery. Like, maybe we shouldn't understand what we're up against, and maybe we shouldn't feel sympathy for the devil, or maybe this movie as a whole was just too heavy-handed. But, in the end, I thought it was beautifully crafted, and I was awestruck with the tone of the film, and the soundtrack, like you said, was great. It sort of felt like a dream sequence the whole time, and maybe more so like a nightmare sequence the whole time. I think it's worth a watch, if only just to form your own opinions of the movie and see what all the fuss is about. And if you're listening to this, I assume you've seen it. So I don't know. There was a lot of stuff I liked about it, but at the end, I just didn't like it. It just bummed me out. It felt gross. Yeah. There's one of my favorite, I know one of the rules of Movie Club is not talking about TV, but one of my all-time favorite TV shows is Breaking Bad. And the whole time you're rooting for Walter, and he's a sociopath, right? He's the bad guy. Like, Walter is the bad guy. You're rooting for him the whole time. And I just feel for whatever reason in the Joker, like, I can't root for the bad guy, and you're not fucking supposed to. It's Joker, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's just weird. Like, maybe if there had been some, I know this isn't a Batman movie, it's just in the Batman universe, but maybe if there was, like, maybe we just needed to see him at the very end, just get his ass kicked by Batman just for a second. Or, what I mean? Like, honestly, that might have been better. Like, maybe he gets away from Batman. Maybe this is the first time Batman And you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, like, he can't fucking win. It's the Joker. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I'm curious to see, like, we got slight hints. Like, obviously, like I said, we met little baby Bruce Wayne and Alfred. And then, you know, I believe at the end scene, there's like kind of hints to Martha and Thomas Wayne down the alley. So there's like things that are there, you know, to kind of let us know where we're at. But, you know, I mean, to your point with Walter White, I feel like with something like that, we as Americans can empathize with Walter White, because it's like, dude's got some like hospital bills coming up. Like, he needs some money, you know what I mean? And I feel like, I mean, one of the best memes or whatever I've seen was like just that Breaking Bad taking place in Canada would be like one episode. It's like, oh, he has universal healthcare. He's fine. Like, you can't have this show, you know? It's like, at least with that character, you empathize where he's coming from.
The same argument could be made with the Joker, right? Like, if he just could have had his mental health issues taken care of, and it'd probably be fine. But
and we'd be good. So I think one of my other issues on the list is, like you said, like, it kind of feels like a dream sequence, but that's also just kind of how they end the movie. And you're just left like, wait, was this whole thing a dream sequence? Because there are so many of them throughout the film. And in a way, some of those I think get handled pretty well. Like, the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, that was kind of cool. Like, I get that, you know what I mean? Like, that was interesting how they did that, how this, like, the delusion is taking over his life. But to also
the stuff with Zazie Beetz, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, she was great. You know, like, it felt weird in the moment as we're watching. It's like, man, this relationship skyrocketed so fast, you know? And then the reveal happens, like, okay, that's why, like I get it.
Makes sense.
But then at the end of the movie, it just, I think you're left like, they want you to think, I don't know, it's ambiguous, you know? It's like, well, was he just thinking that the whole time? And that just made me so mad. I was like, what's going on? Like, and then I listened to some podcasts with Joaquin, and people have asked him like, oh, what do you think is real and not? He's like, I don't know. I don't really care. It's up for the audience. And for some reason, for me, it's just like, just make up your mind. Let me know, you know, like I'm okay with some ambiguity. Like, the ending to Inception, I love, because then that kind of gets you in the mood of like, oh, is he like imagining this place, or is that like top about to like fall over? Like, that works for me. But when you end the movie by saying like the whole thing could have been a joke or whatever, like, I don't know. It just, I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you guys have said. I felt like, I guess, just to get right out of like my issue with it is like, it is the way that they brought like mental health and mental illness into the role. On one hand, I understand why they thought that they should do it, or why they thought that it would be smart or heady or make people feel, make it more relatable. Like, I get that. But to me, it just like completely weakened him as a villain, because he goes through his journey and he's done all these heinous things now. And even at the end of the movie, like, yes, you want him to be stopped, but kind of like in real life, like if a sane person kills people, it's like, okay, he needs to go to jail. He needs to be stopped. If an insane person kills people, he needs help. And so like they go to like an institution, which is kind of what Batman's all about. Like, I get it. Like, it's Arkham. So he's going to go to Arkham Asylum. Like, Batman puts him in like a mental institution. And so I guess it is like showing that, but there is something about it. Like, Joker is like supposed to be criminally insane, and not necessarily like insane first, like mental issues first, and then like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the Joker that I know, you know, like he sort of like goes, he ends up being criminally insane, right? Like, he's not like that's not his genesis, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think something you mentioned earlier about his disorder where he laughs all the time. I actually thought that was kind of cool, and I think they could have used that. Like, he could have been like an overall like normal guy, just trying to like get ahead in the world, and he's got this weird tick where he laughs at inappropriate stuff, but he's not necessarily crazy. And then maybe that can be his drive. Like, he finds out the only way he can succeed is by Breaking Bad, if we tie it all together, right? and then he turns into the Joker because he's always laughing at this horrible stuff he does, and then maybe it just doesn't feel so gross. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like we're supposed to be happy when he gets beat up, or like here's this guy's got fucking problems.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah, it's awful the things he's doing, but we're supposed to be happy that he just keeps getting the shit kicked out of him and nothing works out for him. Like it's just hard to reconcile.
Like Thanos does all these bad things, and like you want him stopped and you want him dead and all that stuff. Arthur does these bad things. It's like, this is horrible, but he needs help. Like, get this guy help.
Right.
And like, we're not supposed to feel that about bad guys. And so like the second part of my like question was like, where do they even go from here in that universe? Like if they build out Bruce Wayne, and I can't help but like, I can't even figure that out, because part of the thing that makes Joker great is like, he's like the complete opposite of Batman, but they both are like insane in their own way to like offset each other over and over again. And so it's like, is Batman, are they going to do like a Batman movie where it's basically the same thing? Like he has issues from like traumatic experience. Like, how do they treat that? And like, I guess like, I was thinking of how they could even treat Batman. And as stupid and as this sounds, like, I almost feel like the only way it could work is if Batman, like Bruce Wayne's treated like almost like Napoleon Dynamite, not in like a comedy sense, but like super serious about himself, but not aware at all about how like socially weird he is.
Stay home and eat all the freaking chips, Kip.
Napoleon, don't be jealous that I've been chatting online with babes all day. Besides, we both know I'm training to become a cage fighter.
Since when, Kip? You have the worst reflexes of all time.
Try and hit me, Napoleon.
What?
I said come down here and see what happens if you try and hit me.
Like, loves playing dress up. He lives with Alfred. Like, just a complete weirdo.
Yeah.
And like somehow does have the means to like go stop people and like fight crime. But like, that's the only way I can even think of how they could make that universe work with a Batman in it.
Yeah, and it makes me realize that like these are like what they tried to do was ground Joker in some sort of reality. So like say like, oh, this could happen. Like you know, like we could end up with a supervillain like Joker. And it's a commentary on the American healthcare system and the way we look at mental health and whatever. But it's just like, okay, great. But you did it in a way that's now we have to look at every person with a mental disability as a potential supervillain. And like, this is a fucking comic book. Like we're not like, I've accepted in the Marvel universe that all these dimensions are tied together through Doctor Strange, and the Guardians of the Galaxy can cruise through the universe and end up on Earth, and Captain Marvel can zip around from planet to planet and galaxy to galaxy. Like, it's not supposed to be rooted in reality. Like, we can see ourselves in these characters because they look human and they live in New York and whatever. But like, there's some suspension of disbelief, and like, I don't need Joker to be grounded in reality. Like he needs to be like have the white face and just be a supervillain and be the foil to Batman. Like
so I picture like you said, like it does if we're trying to cement like Bruce Wayne into reality, all of a sudden we have to like figure out what would like realistically push him into vigilantism. Yeah. Like, and he has to be like sort of crazy to do that as well. So it's like, is he just at home watching He-Man and he feels like he can go out and do these things? Like, I do not know where they're going to go with it.
Part of me wondered, like, I was really trying to like stretch to make a connection here to the DCEU with Joker. And, you know, one of those end scenes, you just see everyone who's so like, quote unquote, inspired by him or like in awe of him and stuff. I was like, is there a world where like, there's a young Bruce Wayne, but there's also another young Joker who ends up like turning into the Jared Leto Joker, who was inspired by the Joaquin Joker, and is like, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like at the beginning of Dark Knight where those guys dress like Batman because they're inspired by him, but maybe this is like the flip side where it's bad. He's like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to just like create chaos, and that's where the vigilante Batman comes from. He's like, oh, I got to like straighten this shit out. Like we can't have, I have no idea like how they tie these in. Like, I think overall,
that's a good pitch though.
I don't know if they like are wanting to tie this Joker in, but it seems like it's clearly set in the 70s, you know what I mean? Like early 80s, late 70s. And Bruce Wayne is 7, 8, I don't know. He's a kid. So I feel like we have at least 15, 20 years before we get Batman. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe like that'd be super weird for like a 20-something-year-old to be fighting this like almost 60-year-old Joker. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do. So maybe like, just like inspire some knockoffs who put damaged on their forehead and like get platinum grills and it's like, oh yeah, this is what I'm gonna do now. I don't know. Like I'm down for a multiverse. Like, I think Spider-Man did it really well. I mean, kind of speaking of all this, like with the multiverse and stuff and like weird villain origins, I can at least say that I feel slightly that this got handled better than Electro, who was just like, I'm going to kill everyone because no one remembers my name. Like, it was just so weird. Yes. Jimmy Fox,
right.
You don't remember my name? All right, I'm going to kill everybody. It's like, dude, chill out. There are billions of us. There's a lot of people's name I don't know. Like, you don't need to kill everyone here. Like, everyone's sitting on that metal bleacher. I'm going to fry him right now because no one remembers my birthday. It's like, okay, dude. Like, that was, for me, the weirdest origin story for a villain. But this one is like, it's not too far away, I don't think. But again, like we've all hit on it. I think it's just the way it portrays mental health. And it's like, oh, if you don't take care of it, you can become a bad guy. It's like, let's just try to take care of it. Like, I don't know. It was weird.
Bottom line, 3 films in a podcast. We're not a fan of Joker. But we do recognize that there was like some cinematic merit there as far as the direction, the cinematography, and the acting. Obviously, Joaquin Phoenix did a masterclass in his role there.
Put the score on Spotify, put the movie on mute, and just like enjoy how it looks and sounds. Like that's the best way to enjoy this movie, in my opinion.
I'd say it's worth watching.
Yeah, I think everyone should, like, honestly, like all these movies, I want people to create their own opinions on it, but
it's true.
It won't be winning any rewatches. I can pretty much guarantee that.
Next up, we have The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. Tyler, do you want to give a recap on that?
Yeah, sure. I'll be honest, I don't really remember it that well. Which is sort of, I feel like a good representation of my overall thoughts on the movie. Like, I liked it, but I don't know, whatever. So, I know that's a great review, and maybe we should just move on from there. But
just a shoulder shrug.
The IMDb description is, it says Toby's a disillusioned film director, and he's pulled into a world of time-jumping fantasy when a Spanish cobbler believes himself to be Sancho Panza. He gradually becomes unable to tell dreams from reality. So basically, we follow Toby, played by Adam Driver. Big fan of the show, by the way. I was surprised to learn that, but
it's pretty cool to get him on. Should be anytime.
Yeah.
Just waiting for his schedule to clear up.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd have more time with the pandemic and everything, but I don't know. He's a busy guy.
Man.
But anyways, we follow around Toby, and he's a filmmaker from New York. I believe from New York, right? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And he's living in Spain trying to make his movie. Is his movie about Don Quixote? His movie is Don Quixote, right? In the movie.
I think it's a student film, right? And like he's making the Don Quixote film, and then
it ends up being pretty meta because it's him trying to make a movie about Don Quixote with this guy he finds in Spain. He's a cobbler and talks him into playing the role of Don Quixote. And this cobbler's played by Jonathan Pryce. And, at a certain point,
also
the character played by Jonathan.
Jonathan Pryce, big fan of the show.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Jonathan Pryce, but
it's all
anyways,
around.
It's a mutual relationship. Yeah.
This cobbler, whose name I can't remember, ends up believing that he himself is like the reincarnation of Don Quixote. And so they're going around Spain, and they're trying to make this movie, and nothing's working out, which ends up being sort of like a meta commentary on the movie itself, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, because it had its own struggles in production, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. But I don't know. Honestly, that's all I can really remember of it. I liked the movie, but it's kind of one that, like, I'm not sad I watched it. I'll probably never watch it again. And I wrote on Letterboxd that I think the only reason I liked it was because of how much I liked Adam Driver and Jonathan Pryce. Pryce, after I didn't know about him until Game of Thrones, and he became and then I saw that Pope movie on Netflix, the Two Popes or whatever it was. Was that the name of it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, he was incredible in that, and I was like, oh man, I like this Jonathan Pryce guy, and he's becoming one of my favorite actors. And if it weren't for all the performances, I don't think I would have liked the movie at all. I just didn't really connect with me. I just didn't really care. And I really did like the scenes of Toby in Spain, the flashback stuff when he's in school, and it was all the nostalgia of him being in Spain and traveling around. It reminded me of a lot of my travels, and not nearly as extravagant or whatever as his, but it reminded me of experiences I've had, and I just felt a cool nostalgia out of it. And overall, I gave it 3.5 stars for 3 stars for the performances and a 0.5 star just because I like Jonathan Pryce. And that's pretty much all I can really say about it, to be honest. I know we're doing a movie podcast, and that's a pretty terrible review, but I mean that's the honest truth, and that my big that would be my big takeaway from it is it's fine. I don't know.
I mean, for a movie that we watched at the beginning of this year, it's
that's the hard part too, is we're recapping these movies from January, and not all of them are going to be rememberable. And it's not that it's a bad movie. I just was like, I don't know. There's other movies that we've watched and that we're going to recap that I'd probably watch first. And so I don't know, if you like Adam Driver, if you like Jonathan Pryce, if you like Terry Gilliam, if you like Spain and whatever, check it out.
This is the movie for you. If you like all 4 of those things, this is your movie. So as far as my review, I ended up on 2.5, and for me, what I wrote in here was, this was weird, even for Terry Gilliam. I mean, this is the guy who directed Brazil, 12 Monkeys, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, plenty of weird stuff. Been involved with Monty Python. He has a lot of weird stuff. And this wasn't that kind of weird, but it was, to me, it was just I don't know. It was strange in its own right. I agree with you, Tyler. The set design was awesome. The 2 leads nailed this movie. Adam Driver and Jonathan Pryce, they're perfect. In these roles, they're fantastic. I mean, I really got to stop. I got to come up with another word for fantastic. I need to pull up a thesaurus with all my tabs here. What else can I say for fantastic?
I think you're fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Me too.
Someday, well, maybe watch Fantastic Mr. Fox, and then I'll just get it all out.
Fantastic Four.
My overall takeaway from my review, though, was in large part thanks to Matt's wife's review, and I just ended it by saying, thanks to Party Ange, I said that it felt like it took me 5 hours to watch a 2-hour movie. When this was done, I was like, what day is it right now? Because I don't know. This is just such a exhausting movie, which is also just kind of funny. If you know any of the backstory to the production of this movie, this thing, when did it come out? 2018. I think Terry Gilliam has been trying to make this for 30 years. Yeah. The original Adam Driver role was Johnny Depp. And I don't know. There's so much that we could go into. I don't necessarily want to make this a podcast about Lost in La Mancha, but that documentary looks fantastic. And just all the stuff that it kind of covers. I mean, just whether the Don Quixote dude who's supposed to ride on a horse throughout the whole movie is this French man in his 70s who learned English for the role, and he's getting on a plane to come film it. This is back in the 80s, 90s. Finds out he has a prostate infection, so he can't ride on a horse, and they have to delay and just budgetary, just all kinds of stuff. I highly recommend, if you are interested in the backstory of it, either renting the documentary Lost in La Mancha, or there's a podcast called What Went Wrong, and they did an episode on Don Quixote, which really just turned into an episode about Lost in La Mancha, where they kind of recap everything. This movie just sounds like it's been a nightmare to make forever. So I don't know.
all of that trouble for this. Like
I know
the movie itself, it's like you got to know when to fold them, man. Like it just like, wasn't meant to be. Like it's his life and his passion. He can do whatever he wants, but it's like you spent 30 years to make a movie where the three of us are like, like we're not the be all end all critics here. I know there's a lot of people that like it if you look through reviews on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, but it's just like, dude, I don't know. Like,
I'm happy for him that he was able to make it, but I think even our review is like right along with the box office, and their review was $2.4 million. Like this movie cost like tens of millions of dollars to make, and it brought in 2.4. And so I think that the box office doesn't always speak for the greatness of a movie by any means, but this was definitely a passion project that he just felt like he needed to get done. I'm happy for him that he did. Like, congratulations to Terry Gilliam, but I never need to see this again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so yeah, Adam Driver's in it. So like that immediately makes it a must see movie because you have to go through all of his, it's like, you have to see it. But that's what you're going to get. You're going to get Adam Driver in a role that you've never really seen him in. He's going to do things that you've never seen him do, some that you never really wanted to see him do. And it's, I guess, curiosity makes this movie worth watching. I found myself like, one of the themes of the movie is these characters like start to lose grasp of reality. And I found that happening to me as I was watching it. And so I didn't really understand what was going on. And I also feel like, honestly, this is like one of those movies where like in a high school AP literature or film study class, like maybe week by week, you watch 20 minutes and dissect everything that you're watching. And maybe it's more enjoyable that way. Like, because it does seem like there are some themes and like symbolism throughout the movie that like felt like reading an AP book in high school. So maybe that's the best way to enjoy it as far as like sitting down and trying to enjoy a movie. It honestly, the Lost in, or that documentary about the movie is probably more enjoyable than the movie itself.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I have never even seen that or listened to that podcast you mentioned, how it went wrong or whatever. But like, it sounds like, having never seen those, I would recommend watching or listening to those instead.
Yeah. One of the instances
I will say,
behind the scenes is a little bit more captivating.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, I'm actually really don't badly want to watch this movie again. I badly want to watch the documentary now.
Yeah.
I guess my takeaway from the movie before we move on would be, I did appreciate how he's in the middle of this project, like later in his career, and then he's kind of hit a dud, like he's hit a wall on it. And then it's sort of like in a serendipitous moment, finds himself like confronted with his student project and watches it again and is like re-inspired by work that he did back then. And I mean, I work in design, and so I have sketch pads and notepads from all different phases of different projects, different phases of my career. And there have been times where like I thumb through something and I see something, I'm like, what was I thinking here? Both in a good way and a bad way. Like,
story of my life.
There's stuff where it's like, what the F was I thinking? Like, this is insane. And then there's stuff that's like, I was onto something here. I don't know how I got there. I don't know where I was going with it, but like, I can be inspired by this again. And so I think that was kind of cool. Even though the movie ends up taking you on this totally crazy ride, it doesn't end with that message, but I did like that aspect of the movie. All right. Next up, we have Marriage Story, which I just want to say ahead of time, we talk about it in depth, and this movie is really best enjoyed not really knowing too much about it. Not that there's like not story spoilers, but emotional spoilers. So if you have not seen this movie, please pause this, watch it, and then you can come right back and resume. Marriage Story was Ben's choice, so I'm going to hand it off to Ben to sort of recap it.
Perfect. IMDb says This is Noah Baumbach's incisive and compassionate look at a marriage breaking up and a family staying together. I've heard him explain it as he wanted to write a love story, but basically in the envelope of a divorce happening. That's what we're telling here, and that's what we see. Noah Baumbach is a wonderful writer director. I think pretty much hands down, we probably all know him best as the writer of Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. I think that's really what his main movie is that we know him for. But he's also directed some other smaller films like Greenberg, While We're Young, which we'll be talking about later on. Meyerwood Stories, Francis Ha, which is like probably my favorite movie of his. He's a great writer director, and this movie, I don't know. I rewatched it again this morning, and basically I can just say that I'm glad I'm like 4 hours removed from it. So hopefully the redness in my eyes has gone away from crying, because this is just, it's such a beautiful movie. My initial review was 4.5 stars for Marriage Story when I watched it. And I think I was just so like caught up in my emotions and just like worried, like, oh, this is recency bias. I can't do too much, but I gave it 5 today. Like this is such a wonderful movie. Adam Driver is like perfect. Scarlett Johansson is perfect. Laura Dern, like I never want to get divorced, but if I do, I want her. You know what I mean? Like she's so amazing. And this story just kind of captures, like we start out with this couple, obviously going through a divorce, wanting to be bi-coastal essentially. Like she wants to live in LA, he wants to live in New York, and they're just, their lives are coming apart. That happens sometimes, like people don't stay together forever. And so we're there through all of it, through all the minutia, through like writing a check to a lawyer. Like we're watching that happen. This isn't like a big, grand, explosive movie for the most part. This is like really a lot about like the intimate moments and just like the special things that people share, even as they're being torn apart. I don't really know how to like sum up this movie other than just like it's beautiful. It's so good. The casting is wonderful. Like Adam Driver's first lawyer is Alan Alda, and it's like, man, yeah, I just want like, kind of the fatherly role. Like, yeah, help me out with this. Like, what do I do? He's the first guy that really listens to Adam Driver and kind of just like, cool. Like, I know these are tough, man. Like, let's get through this together. Here's what to expect. And then his next lawyer is Ray Liotta. So if you can just like picture a role in any movie being first for Alan Alda and then switch to Ray Liotta, like that's kind of what it is, because then it becomes like no bullshit. Like, cool, I'm $950 an hour. Like, don't fuck with me. Don't waste my time. Here's what we're going to do. We're like, it's just such a switch, but you find that that's kind of what they feel like they need to go through. But, I don't know. I know we're going to talk about our favorite scene later on, I'm sure. So I'll leave that for one of you guys. But I couldn't recommend this movie highly enough. As a child of divorce, I know that's like really what hit me and got me like super emotional about it. I reached out to my dad right after watching. He was like, have you seen this? And, we just kind of talked about like it being maybe too real. I don't know, but also like perfectly the right amount of real. I don't know. I couldn't recommend it enough to anyone. Like don't go in for a happy movie, but just go in for a powerful, moving experience.
Yeah, it's weird when you say don't go in looking for a happy movie, because in a lot of ways, like this is not a happy movie. But when I think about it, I don't know if it's necessarily a sad movie. It certainly is. Like, it definitely is going to make you cry. But to me, it's not so much that it's happy. It's not so much that it's sad. And it seems, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but trite or cliche to say that it's a real movie. Yeah. But in all honesty, like it sort of felt almost life affirming, right? Because it's a terrible thing that's happening, but it's happening to two good people who are just like growing apart.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool to see a story like this played out in that way, because typically someone's the villain. And in this movie, at certain points, they're both the villain. And the true villain is just life, I guess you could say, dragging them apart. I had put off watching this for a long time. Like, this was in our second round of our movie club, and I don't think I watched this. I didn't watch it till March. I'm looking at my Letterboxd here. Wow. So I watched it. We were in like round 5 by the time I finally watched this, because I knew it was going to be a lot, and I just was afraid of what that meant. I went into it very reluctantly, with a sense of heavy trepidation, despite all the positives I knew that was going to exist within the film. I knew all the performances were going to be great. It's Adam Driver and it's Scarlett Johansson, two actors I really like. I knew the direction would be really great. I'd seen some Baumbach stuff, and they were both, or all the movies I saw were great. I knew it was going to be well crafted, but I felt like it was going to be too raw, or maybe too heavy and too real, I guess. And I guess what it came down to is I wasn't sure that I didn't trust that I wasn't going to just be hit over the head with reality, right? Like, this is how life is, and love is a lie, and people are awful, and they're going to hurt you, and blah, blah, blah. But in the end, I guess I didn't realize I could trust Noah Baumbach. And I hope I don't ever make that mistake again. Because honestly, I loved this movie. And despite all the fears that had kept me from watching it, and those fears that had, come from within my own head, I had projected my own deep, dark personal fears onto the film. And that was a mistake. And like, don't get me wrong. It's very emotionally heavy and it's full of heartbreak. It's just that I felt the story served as more of a cautionary tale as opposed to a grim reflection on the realities of love and relationships that I had presumed it to be. Like, we need to be open, we need to be honest and willing to be flexible for our partners. And we need to look out for ourselves and our partners equally. Like, we need to compromise. We need to take care of our partner's happiness as much as we care about our own. And like, I don't know, you get the point. But I liked the movie from the very start when I finally got around to watching it. I really loved how we're introduced to the characters through the letters to each other.
What I love about Charlie, he loves being a dad. It's almost annoying how much he likes it. He cries easily in movies.
I cried 4 times.
Me too.
He's very competitive.
What's this? Who owns Baltic Avenue?
And I thought that the story was clever and charming, but I wasn't like totally hooked until further into the film. And by the end, I had gone from liking it to just loving it. It's sort of like it was like an exponential growth, right? And like at the beginning, I was like, okay, cool, this is a good movie. And like, I always liked Scarlett Johansson, but she was just so incredible from the beginning in this movie. And I think the movie at that point is leaning more towards her character, right? And it's like, oh man, this is going to be a great Scarlett Johansson movie. Cool, like great. And then, whatever. And then we go on and we meet Laura Dern, and her monologue about God as an absentee father.
We love them for their fallibilities, but people absolutely don't accept those same failings in mothers. We don't accept it structurally, and we don't accept it spiritually, because the basis of our Judeo-Christian whatever is Mary, mother of Jesus, and she's perfect. She's a virgin who gives birth, unwaveringly supports her child, and holds his dead body when he's gone. And the dad isn't there. He didn't even do the fucking. God is in heaven. God is the Father, and God didn't show up. So you have to be perfect, and Charlie can be a fuck up, and it doesn't matter. You will always be held to a different, higher standard. And it's fucked up, but that is the way it is.
I was legitimately floored. I didn't expect that. She delivered it so well.
Oh, man.
She had so much power behind her and so much confidence and so much. I was like, oh shit! Like I will follow her into battle, right? Like I need her on my side. And then I was like, then I was in. I was like, okay, this is a 4-star movie. And by this point, like enough had happened where I'm in. And then we get to the scene that you mentioned earlier. And I guess I'll drop this now, but where Adam Driver gets up and sings in the bar. And at that point, I was truly fucking floored. It came out of absolute nowhere for me. It was like the way he sang it and performed it was just beautiful. And I think it just was so unexpected that it sort of like spun me around. And I just was like, I've gone from I really like this movie to I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And in the end, there wasn't a performance I didn't enjoy. The writing, direction, editing, pacing, overall crafting of the film was incredible. And I only gave it 4.5 stars, which I probably honestly would bump up to 5 if I watched it again. But I just, I'm trying to be less liberal with my 5-star reviews. So I couldn't have been more wrong. And I wish I didn't put off watching this movie for as long as I did. But in the end, I couldn't possibly recommend this movie enough. Like, I don't have a lot of divorce in my life, but you can see, like, I've had relationships in my life where, you get driven apart for whatever reason. And it just was like, it doesn't make you feel bad about it. It doesn't make you feel good about it. It just is like, this is what happens and it's okay. And maybe if you're conscious of these things happening, you can avoid this outcome. Mm-hmm. And no one's the bad guy. It just is what it is, and I thought it was incredible.
Yeah. And I guess to bring up that last point, like, divorce isn't the bad guy in this. Like, you go through the movie and you recognize why it's happened. Mm-hmm. And you also, since neither side are really the bad guy, like, you see why it's happened. You understand why it's happened. And it doesn't make it any less emotional. In fact, it makes it even more emotional, because you go through the movie and, like, the two characters still really love each other, but not in the same, like, let's stay together sort of way. And I think the bad guy in it really is, the process, the law, like the laws around divorce and the process that good people have to go through to have it happen like in an amicable way. I mean, I'm saying amicable, like it can happen in an amicable. I mean, I'm sure it could, but like, this isn't a story like trashing marriage. It's not a story trashing divorce, but it is trashing what it does to people. And this wasn't even a bad divorce. Like, if you were to look at this from the beginning to the end and the way that the movie ends, like, this actually ends like a pretty good divorce. Yeah. Like, if the ex-husband is able to go trick-or-treating with the new family and his son, that's a pretty good divorce in my eyes. I always said it's not like a happy movie, and that I may have misspoken, but it's still a hopeful movie. While you're watching this, you're like, this is still like, even if things didn't work out, they're still a family, Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like, Noah kind of describes it perfectly. Like, it is a love story, because the thing that everyone still shares from start to finish is like love for one another. It is just through this kind of ugly lens of this really bad process that they have to go through. Mm-hmm. And, like, I mean, I can't continue on without, like, shouting praises to Laura Dern, because while on one hand, like, from Charlie's perspective, like, you absolutely hate her with, like, what she's, like, how she's leveraging things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then from, like, Scarlett's perspective, like, she is a hero and, like, is just doing, like, a phenomenal job. And, like, she just did, like, she had you on her team, like, the second you meet her. Oh yeah. And it was just so cool. The way that, like, Noah, I just feel like this is one of those rare, and I gave it 5 stars as well. But it's one of those rare movie experiences where I feel like the director, the script, the acting, the score by Randy Newman, which was amazing. Like, everything worked together to just create this perfect experience. And I feel like out of the people that have seen it, everyone went on the journey that they were supposed to go on. Like, it was crafted perfectly for you to go through this emotional trip. And it worked, and it was successful, and everyone felt the same, like, things. And, like, this is a movie that, even though it was, like, such an emotional ride, I still quote it all the time. There's still so many, like, funny things, so many sweet things, so many, like, just great moments, that it really, like Tyler said, it's not a sad movie, even though it is like emotionally devastating at times. And just to again shout my praise to the bar scene. I had heard, I was looking forward to this movie, so I saw it back in 2019. I didn't think I'd ever watch it again. Just from what it was like, I knew it was going to be emotional. I didn't anticipate it being quite what it was. Mm-hmm. I do recommend watching it twice though, because it's a different experience the second time. Whoa. Anyway, I'd seen an interview with Adam Driver, and it was kind of spoiled for me that he'd be singing in it at some point. Mm. They didn't show the scene, but they just had him talk about it. And he said that like it was something that him and Noah had wanted to do for a really long time. And finally there was a script and a context that made sense for it. And so when it started happening, like it was crazy. And then like just to see his performance and then hear that song in the context of what had just happened to Charlie's character, it was like just an insane emotional experience that I don't think I've experienced in any movie, honestly.
For sure.
And it solidified it as like one of my favorite scenes of any movie of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I know.
Just the way, like, sorry, Ben, but
no, go for it.
No, just the way that, it's just a testament to Adam Driver's acting ability, because he wasn't just singing, he was feeling that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he really tapped into what it would be like to go through that and have your life torn apart like that, and to go through all those things, and to really still respect the person you're in opposition to, and have some sort of love for. And it just was like, it was heart-wrenching, and it was just so realized and so honest. And it was just, it really, every time I think about it, I'm still blown away. And I've only seen it the one time, but it's powerful stuff.
That scene just like floored me. Like that's again, like I was probably riding like a 4-star wave throughout the whole movie, and then that happened. I was like, well, this is at least 4.5 stars now, because like this shot of him just singing just like making like I'm bawling. You know, like this is crazy. And I think that also just kind of speaks to the craft of it, which I just want to talk about quickly, because it's all in one take. Like we're just with him as he kind of moves back and forth. And I was listening to Noah Baumbach talk about it, and he said they did something like 12 takes, which I cannot imagine, like sitting there and watching this happen 12 times. Like, how do you have like fluids in your body to cry at? like if you're there just like watching, it's insane. But he talks about like, this is one of the things that really stuck out to me that Noah Baumbach said is throughout the whole movie, we are always with one of the two main characters, and the camera intentionally moves with them. Like that's the only time that the camera moves is with the characters, except for 2 scenes. And that's when Scarlett Johansson is like giving her monologue with Laura Dern. We get like a slow push in, and then we get that same thing here as Adam Driver singing. That's the only time that the camera moves that doesn't have to do with the character moving around. And I think that just speaks so much to like, you know, ScarJo just like letting it all out about what it means like to be with him, and, you know, like the narcissism and the selfishness, and she's just like letting it out. I'm pretty sure it's while she's talking to Laura Dern, and we get that raw core like emotion. And then we also get that when he's singing this song. It's just like, man, that's crazy that these are like the 2 things that mirror each other, and those are the only times. And it's just like, it's just those little details, you know. It's like, man, you notice it, but just kind of subconsciously, you know, like we're getting this slow push, and it's like we really are hitting home like what this guy's going through right now. And this is the perfect way to do it. I don't know. It's beautiful. I'm half tempted just to like play the whole thing so people can see it, but I also don't want to like ruin it for people, because when it happens, like I don't know. Like I hope if you've been watching this that you'll have seen it. You will have seen the movie, or you're about to. If I do play it, I'll just put it at the very end of the podcast, so just like skip it. But like, man, it's such a wonderful scene. And again, just to like echo what you guys are talking about, Laura Dern, I mean, she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. There was 6 Oscar nominations, and she's the only one that won. And I feel, I mean, her whole role is perfection, but that speech, that monologue that she's giving when she talks about how like men expect women to be perfect. She's like, think about it. Like the person who gave birth to Christ was a virgin. Like that's how perfect she was. Like people are just expecting this all the time. It's like, you have to be perfect. And we just see the flip side of that, where when they're trying to like, quote unquote, win the battle, it's like these little things that just get talked about in random conversation get brought up in court and used against him. Like Adam is with ScarJo and she's like, oh man, I just had a little too much to drink tonight, but whatever. And for those of us that do, like, we've all kind of been there. It's just like, you're just a little tipsy. It's not a big deal. But then it comes up in court. It's like, oh, well, he said you were carrying their son while you were drunk. It's like, wait, hold on. Like, this is completely blown out of context. But that's what you get, when you try to like get to the hardcore stuff. When Ray Liotta's your lawyer, he's going to cut to the chase. He's going to like really spin stuff. And Laura Dern's not afraid to do it either, though, which I think is great because they go back and forth. And the power of those courtroom scenes is that we still are watching our main two protagonists look at each other, but they aren't saying anything. It's like their lawyers are saying everything for them. It's just like, I don't know. It's such a strong movie. And I couldn't recommend it enough.
Agreed.
Yeah. So check out Marriage Story before you watch the Adam Driver singing in the bar. Honestly, you don't want to watch them separate. Like, no, it just doesn't hold the same weight. It's still a great scene.
I feel like if you've listened to this point without having watched the movie, like, Ben, you need to put a warning before we talk about this thing. Because I don't think you could listen to this conversation and then go see the movie and have the same experience. I feel like this is one you need to have seen before we talk about it.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Like, I feel like, I know we put the spoiler warning at the beginning, but hopefully what we've discussed so far isn't too awful, but we'll do some sort of a warning beforehand. But
yeah, I feel like part of the reason, and maybe it's just because that was my personal experience, is because I didn't know anything about this movie other than everyone was saying it was great. Yeah. And I think part of the reason I enjoyed it so much is because it met those expectations while also throwing them back in my face. Right. So it was like discovering these things as you're watching the movie, I think is the way that it needs to happen. So if you've listened to this point, you haven't seen the movie, I'm really sorry, but
now to finish this episode off, we have to leave with our Rushmore Mountain.
These are OR scrubs. Oh, are they?
To plagiarize from Conan O'Brien, all of our budget went to that graphic. That little segment graphic. Anyway, I'll start us off. Adam Driver has become one of my favorite actors. It's crazy that he's just kind of skyrocketed up in these last several years, done a ton of work for the little amount of time that he's been working. And to me, just brings so much freshness to every single role that he's in. That all said, and he's great in everything, it was still pretty easy for me to pick my 4 favorite. And so we might see some crossover, but I will start off with maybe the obvious one, Kylo Ren, specifically from The Last Jedi.
I want every gun we have to fire on that man. Do it.
Then we'll go into, speaking of Marriage Story, Charlie Barber from Marriage Story. Then I've got to go with Clyde Logan from Logan Lucky. And then finish it off with Flip Zimmerman from Black Klansman.
Hear you Jews do something funny with your dicks. Some weird Jew shit. Is your dick circumstanced?
Oh, is that what this is about? You're trying to see my big Jew dick.
So this one was actually like, I knew we were doing Adam Driver for Rushmore Mountain. I didn't prepare at all. I meant to do it before we started recording today, and I didn't. So we're going to do this. We're going to do it live. We're going to do it right now. I'm going to go through his IMDb, and I'm going to make some picks.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
And so the first thing I'll say is I'm going to put Marriage Story on there. I would be surprised if it wasn't on all three of ours. So Marriage Story would be the first. And again, I know that the rules of Movie Club, we're not supposed to talk about TV, but I don't know. We made the rules so we can break them. And I have to put Adam Sackler on there. I have to put his character from Girls on there. If we're going to talk about Adam Driver as an actor, and that's how I met him, and I just love that character. So he's got to be on there. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just the way it's going to happen.
My hands are tied. He has to. I can't what are you going to do?
And then I would also put Kylo Ren on there. I'll put The Force Awakens, and mainly because it's not the one you picked. And for the fourth, I'm tempted to just leave it open for now and fill it in later, because now that I'm looking at this, like, I haven't seen Black Klansman. I liked the report that was that'll be in an episode that we do later on. But I couldn't say that would be better than any of the three I put on there. So I can't put it, whatever.
Yeah.
The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, I thought was just fine. I guess I'll put his character from While We Were Young on there, and then maybe that'll be replaced later.
Cool. He was great in that.
Yeah, he's really good. He had the fun, whimsical hipster guy,
which is different for him.
So yeah.
He's just a fun dude. So I'll put those four for now.
Cool. I am just gonna complete the new trilogy. We'll just go with what's the new one called? I'm trying to blank.
Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, the Rise of Skywalker. Which, I mean, if I'm being honest with myself, my order would have gone on what you guys did. I loved him in Last Jedi. He really brought it in Force Awakens. Like, that's a pretty big role to take on, to be like the big bad in a Star Wars movie without like just being Darth Vader 2.0. And he was so good. Like the Force choke, like when he's like stopping the blast in that opening scene with Oscar Isaac, like I was in. I'm like, okay, this guy's legit.
Can we talk about that for just 1 sec?
Yeah, please.
My biggest complaint, and it's funny that you say like without being Darth Vader 2.0, but my biggest complaint with Kylo Ren is the fact that we do see his face. Like, I feel like he should have just been the faceless villain the whole time for whatever reason. For some reason, in my opinion, he lost some of his power and some of his intimidation the second you see his face. And he's still like a scary guy, and he's obviously has violent tendencies and stuff, but that opening scene, I was like, oh shit, this guy is unstoppable. He's so scary. Like, and then he takes his helmet off and it's like, it's just this, he's just weird. you know, like he's just a weird guy with a chokehold. I don't know. It's just,
that's the guy from Girls.
It wasn't even so much that. It's just, I think part of the reason I like Adam Driver so much is because he does have this sort of relatable charm to him, or he's sort of, he's not that he's an ugly guy, but he's, he has a look, you know what I mean? Like he has a very specific look, and he sort of has this sort of like, I don't even know how to describe it. He just like, Adam Driver doesn't scare me, but Kylo Ren does. And I just felt like as soon as you can see that he's like, just like a normal dude. I don't know. It just sort of ruined it for me. Not ruined it. I still think it's a cool character, and obviously he's different than Darth Vader in that he is someone you can sort of see and relate to and have some sympathy for. But I don't know. I just felt like he was better off.
See, my favorite scene was him. My favorite scene was him smashing his mask in The Last Jedi and just being Adam Driver for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and maybe it would have worked better for me if the entirety of The Force Awakens, he was the faceless guy, and then he smashes it and then goes from there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just was kind of like, I kind of liked it better when it was just this Kylo Ren guy, and it wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you like that. I hadn't thought that until you said that, and I get the perspective. I think that's like totally valid. My first thought too just goes to like the behind the scenes of Hollywood, where it's like, well, no, I gotta like, you know, my brand, not that Adam Driver's his brand, it's like I gotta have some FaceTime, you know, because it's like it makes you think about. I feel like a lot of the questions for these movies, like X-Men 2, James Marsden just like covering his eyes the whole time. And people are like, oh, is that weird? Like people may not really know who you are. And to an even greater extent, I don't know if either of you guys saw Dread with Carl Urban, but he's just covered the whole time. And I think it works. It works perfectly for the story. But I also just know that like in, you know, kind of the press interviews later, it's like, what was it like just to like not be able to show your face? I'm like, it's got to be kind of weird, you know, to be like, yes, I'll be the lead role, but don't look at me. But, you know, then again, how many times has Tom Hardy done this now with Christopher Nolan? Where it's like we just see a couple things, like it's just his eyes or something like that. So,
well, like at a certain point, like it's Star Wars. Like Star Wars is bigger than Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows James Earl Jones was the voice behind Darth Vader. You know, it's like I mean, I understand why an actor would feel that way, but I don't know. I just feel like some of his mystique and intimidation is gone when we realize he's just like an angsty teenager or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think to that point, that's why I'm going to choose Rise of Skywalker as my Kylo Ren, because we do get to see the emotion from him. I think that's like one of the big differences between him and Darth Vader is that he's growing over time, and we get to see the conflict between both him and Rey, you know, and that's maybe a little hard to do with the mask on the whole time. And that's why I liked him so much in The Rise of Skywalker is like we kind of come full circle with him. I don't know, just his character arc, and at the end with the Knights of Ren and like taking them out, doing all that kind of stuff. I think I don't think you could be wrong by picking any of these movies. I think he really brought a lot to that role, and I don't know that's not an easy thing to do, you know. So that'll be my first one. I'll go with Rise of Skywalker. I'm also going to echo Marriage Story because I don't know how you can give someone a 5-star movie review and be like, nah, he's on 3 other things that are better. So yeah, I'll go with Marriage Story. I will say like the line, Matt, you talked about like saying stuff all the time from this movie. And I don't know why, but the one that always sticks out to me is when he and his kid are coming up the escalator and his kid's like, I cried 4 times.
I cried 4 times.
Me too.
He cries easily in movies.
I wonder if it was the same 4.
Me too. Like,
I wonder if they're the same ones.
I love that line so
Me too.
So much.
I wonder if they're the same ones.
Yeah, it's so good.
Parts,
like, it cracks me up so much. And then like
so good.
You know, Invisible Man in the mirror, like just making, I don't know, he's a passionate father. He's like committed to everything. And it's so good. I will also go with Black Klansman. That's a great movie. Obviously, hopefully you've listened to our other Spike Lee movies that we've talked about, but this is, me personally anyway, a very high recommend. Plus we get John David Washington, so no complaints there. Honestly, like Matt, you and I have basically the same thing because my other was going to be Logan Lucky. His performance in that, I mean, it's so different, I feel like, than almost anything else he's done. And I mean, this isn't a movie where like James Bond has bleach blonde hair and it's like this Southern accent, and like Adam Driver still holds his own in it.
He's missing an arm.
Yeah, he's missing an arm. He's like this bartender. Like, Daniel Craig's great in it. It's nothing I expected. We're going to be, talking about The Killing later. And, I can say that I think Logan Lucky might pop into the discussion about as far as heist movies go. Like, it's a pretty solid heist movie.
I still haven't seen it.
Which one? Both?
Logan, both. Logan Lucky. Yeah.
I mean, it really, I had no expectations going into it. It was one of those times where you're just like sitting on the couch, like, I don't know, let's just check this out and see. And then afterwards, like, man, that was really good. Like, why haven't I heard more people talk about this? Like, it was a fun movie. I had a really good time with it. So, but I also will say, like, my introduction to him was in Girls, and he's like marvelous. If you haven't watched that, I recommend it. But I will trade all of these roles for the one scene in What If where he talks about having nachos. I just need that on the loop for the rest of my life, and Adam Driver can stop acting, because that is like...
I just had sex. I'm about to eat nachos! It's the greatest moment of my life! Unless you screw it up with whatever it is you're about to say.
Possibly my favorite. Like, I don't know. It's so good. So What If's another great movie. Honestly, like, if you haven't checked it out, please do. I wrote my review. Like, to be fair, I haven't seen Swiss Army Man or some of the other movies Daniel Radcliffe has done, but this was the first time that I watched a Daniel Radcliffe movie without seeing Harry Potter. Like, I was just like invested into his character, and Adam Driver is like his buddy that's in it. And he's a great, side, like, just comic relief kind of role. And yeah, it's a great rom-com. I mean, I'm sure February will be going into rom-coms, and it's very new to me, but this was still just like, I don't know, it might be in my Rushmore, at least honorable mentions. I really liked What If. So yeah, that's my Rushmore Mountain.
Cool.
Sweet. Well, thank you for tuning in. Please check out our website, our shop. We've got some cool things on there. And as always, if you want to support us, we have our Patreon. We'd love for you to be a patron, contribute, and we'd love to work with you that way. And
and really, like, I want some participation. I want some interaction here. We're doing this because we like doing it. I mean, I could sit and talk about this stuff with you guys forever, but like, we want some people to clap back at us. Tell us what you think about these movies, or tell us why we're right or we're wrong, or leave some comments. And the next time we do a watch party, I highly recommend you be there, because it's a blast. So
we had a great time. Yeah. All the community that was there and chatting along, and some of our Rushmore Mountain posts have gotten quite a bit of traffic, which has been great. I think our directorial debut, we got a lot of interesting feedback on that from other people's choices and movies that I just never had even thought about. So that's what we're trying to do here. We really just kind of want to build a community where we all get together and talk about movies and everything. So yeah, please, if you have any thoughts, don't keep them to yourself. Just, share them with us.
Yeah, it's a movie club. And if you're watching on YouTube or listening wherever you get your podcasts, like, you're a part of the club. So we want to hear your opinions on stuff. It's just, we happen to be the ones with the microphones. So, but you have a keyboard and you can tell us everything you think, and we'd love to hear it. So I hope you do.
We are 3 films in a podcast doing our little podcast episode, and we are signing out. See you later.
See ya.
And of course, I spent the whole year demanding that Adam Driver demolish me, crush my larynx, you unwieldy boulder, explode my... Oh, fuck. Oh, shit.
Hey, John.
Oh, wow, Adam Driver. Can't believe you're calling.
Oh, good. Listen to me.
Yep.
What the fuck are you doing?
Excuse me?
This bit.
Right.
This bit. This thing you've been doing that's either sexual or violent.
No, I like to think of it more as a little column A, little column B.
This strange bit that for some reason you pulled me into. What is it? When you first started doing it, it was easy for me to shrug it off.
Especially with those shoulders, I bet.
But then it kept going on and on.
Bet you could shrug off a whole planet with those meat peaks.
On and on. Stop talking.
Right.
Do you realize, over this past year, what you've asked me to do to you? Collapse on your chest. Tie your fingers in a square knot. Step on your throat. Shatter your knees. Pull your heart out through your ear. What's wrong with you?